Hello, guys, and welcome here to Out of Turn 4. This is our new racing show here on Tinkle Sports. I'm Brian. I'll be hosting the show. So, of course, we want to welcome you. Um, for those who are new to Tinkle or new to any of our podcasts, mainly sports talk, we did a segment called Out of Turn 4. Zach and I, avid racing fans, and I figured this was the best way to address all the racing news that there is in a given week. Because sometimes our podcast, we just can't cover it in our shows. So I figured this was the best way to cover it, so that way we can address it in, we're gonna address all the racing news that we can in a half hour. And basically it's just the stuff, because again, with all the football news, all the baseball news, all the other stuff, there's just no time in our podcasts, unfortunately, to get you that racing news that you may desire. We have a lot of racing fans that are in our server, so we figured, or in our Discord, and by the way, join our Discord. I believe it's in the link below. But again, just due to time constraints, it's just so difficult to get it recorded. So that's kind of why we figured this was the best way going forward, just to have it be its own show on, say, Tuesday afternoon at 5. So I chose the time slot. I chose the name, of course, came over from our segment on SCN Sports Talk. So anyway, without further delay, we just wanted to say welcome. Glad you can join us if you haven't yet. Please hit that subscribe button. Again, this is a YouTube exclusive, so it is not available on audio. That's just another thing I wanted to get across. So let's get started with that. Let's start out with Formula One. Now, Formula One, I'm not generally a fan of, mainly for a few reasons. There's really no American driver to root for. That's the first reason. Number two, it's the Lewis Hamilton show. That was not the case this weekend. Max Verstappen gets his first win of 2021. He wins the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Of course, he did hold off the aforementioned Lewis Hamilton, and he held off McLaren's Lando Norris, who got his first podium of 2021. I guess I'm not shocked Verstappen won, because if it's not Lewis Hamilton, it's either Verstappen, or the occasional Toro Rosso, or oh my gosh, you could tell I don't watch Formula One very often, but Toro Rosso, I want to say it's Alpha something now, Alpha Tori, that's what I was thinking of. But if it's not one of those guys, it's usually them. You don't normally see the smaller teams up front. I believe Racing Point's one of the top teams as well, if I'm not mistaken. But congratulations to Max Verstappen and Team Red Bull. An incredible win for them. And not to mention, he won big on Lewis Hamilton. That's even more shocking about all this, because Lewis Hamilton, if he's not winning, he is very damn close to winning. So, this is just very shocking. But that was not necessarily the biggest news out of F1 today. Of course, the biggest news was the Miami Grand Prix has been confirmed for 2022. It'll be a 10-year deal effective next season. It's going to replace one race on the schedule. We don't know which one yet, but they've confirmed it will be a 23-race schedule next season, which means one race has to go. I'd imagine that race probably gonna be Coda. So again, I think Coda, at the cost of Coda, I don't think it's a good race to lose. But Coda can kind of afford to lose racing right now, in a sense, because Coda has NASCAR now. Coda has NASCAR. Maybe they get IndyCar back in the future, but it's not looking good for a newer track to lose such a big sanctioning body and a big series, if that is the case. It is a big win for Miami, of course. F1 needs to get into the American they need to get into the American market, because they don't have American drivers, okay? You're going to turn away American fans very quick by not having an American driver, but having a race in America could really bring fans in. And that's why I think I like this Miami move, and not to mention around Hard Rock Stadium, the iconic Hard Rock Stadium. I think it's very good for F1 to have a Grand Prix there. So I think it's a good location. At the Costa Coda, though, I don't know. That remains to be seen, of course. Anyway, let's move forward. We do have some IndyCar news, of course. Alex Palou, the guy, he ran for Dale Coyne Racing and Team Go last season. GOH, by the way. He ran for that team. He got his first ever IndyCar win in his first race with Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, keep in mind, I guess, if you watched last season, he was close a few times. He showed flashes of brilliance. He was an aggressive driver, much like his teammate last season, Santino Ferrucci, but he knew how to channel it better in a way that wasn't per se destructive. So, congratulations to Alex Palou. I was rooting for him hard at the end of that race. I did watch the entire IndyCar race. I didn't watch the F1 race, and I didn't watch much of the NASCAR race, but I did catch the full IndyCar race. Full disclosure, guys, if NASCAR's on TV and IndyCar's on TV, I'm going to choose IndyCar 9 times out of 10. Because I think IndyCar is phenomenal racing. I think it's a diverse racing community. I think, and not just that, I think, just like I said, the quality of racing is so good, and it's not a strict sanctioning body, and it's not, fully sold out to entertainment. So that I like about it, and I like, again, I just like the atmosphere at the end of the day. It's so welcoming. It's so friendly. I've been to many races, or 2 races for IndyCar, and I'm going to one this summer over at Mid-Ohio. So if you're going to Mid-Ohio, come say hi. But, yeah, so, of course, Alex Palou, again, his first win. He held off Will Power. He held off the champion Scott Dixon, who's also his teammate, mind you. But this goes to show you Chip loves winners. Alex Palou might not have won a race last season with Dale Coyne, but he's a proven winner now, okay? And to win in your first start with Chip Ganassi is nothing short of spectacular. So I like this win. I've always thought highly of Alex Palou. I think he is an underrated driver. Since I've seen him in the IndyCar iRacing Challenge, and I know iRacing, real life, not much, obviously completely different things, but I definitely thought from the start, I thought he was going to be a force to be reckoned with, and boy, I was right on that. Will Power gets his championship start, or off to a great start. Of course, the last few years, he's really not been seen, and this is a contract year for Will Power. There's no more there's no more for Team Penske putting out to pasture in the IMSA stuff. So for Will Power, it's do or die for him. He knows that. I know Penske likes to bring back Indy 500 winners, and if you win an Indy 500 with Penske, you're golden. But for Will Power, you gotta imagine, this was going to be a scenario this offseason of what have you done for me recently? Because now they've got young Scott McLaughlin in the program. So, again, congratulations to Will Power. A good run. I know he wanted the win. He was pushing hard for the win. He sure made it entertaining. Of course, with Alex Palou caught up in the lap traffic at the end. But it was a fun race to watch. But you got to feel for Pato O'Ward. Pato O'Ward, of course, he was leading quite a bit of the race. He led just as much as Alex Palou did. And he decided to go with a 3-stop strategy as opposed to a 2-stopper. Now, that would have required some cautions to go his way, which, unfortunately, after the lap 1 melee, and after the Jimmy Johnson spin and stall, there really wasn't much in the way of cautions. So, it just really didn't pan out in his favor. And you got to feel for him. Pato's been so close to wins. He's really, I mean, I think he's a dark horse for the championship this year. I think he can really contend with these guys. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think it's going to be. Of course, the last few years, it's really been Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden. Now, I think it's more than just those two. I think it's going to come down to Pato O'Ward with those two. Will Power, and Alexander Rossi. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it be a 5-team championship battle. So I wouldn't be shocked to see those 5 competing for the overall championship when we go to Long Beach to end the season. But, again, Pato's going to win some races this year. I think he is so talented since he came back from overseas. I think he learned so much. And I think, again, he's a force to be reckoned with this year. I think there's just so many dangerous drivers this year. I think it's a little more open than what it was last season. We'll see if I'm right at the end of the year. Some news on Pato, though, of course, before the race, it was confirmed Zach Brown, who is the team principal at Arrow McLaren Schmidt-Peterson, he has promised Pato O'Ward an off-season test in a Formula One car, assuming that Pato gets a win this season. And, of course, that test would be in December after the F1 season wraps up. And I will tell you, as far as my thoughts go on that, I just don't think Pato should go to F1. I think he tried this route before, and he was very lucky to get back into IndyCar. I just don't think he has what it takes to race in F1. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I think from a competitive standpoint, I think he'd be better off staying in F1 because the gap between the competition, so the gap between being in a competitive ride and being at the back of the pack, okay, the competition gap is so much further in F1 than it is in IndyCar and than it is in NASCAR. It is so much harder to get a top-tier ride at the F1 level. It is so much tougher. It is so much more cutthroat in F1 than it is in NASCAR and than it is in IndyCar. He's got the talents to be a IndyCar champion one day. He may even have the talents to be an Indy 500 champion in the near future. But with that said, I think you should stay where you feel you can have the most success. I agree, you can look for a challenge. But what are the chances if he leaves the States to go to F1? What are the chances that he will come back and compete for a title? I would not believe that they are very high in his favor. So, again, I think Pato should stay in IndyCar. I mean, you can test an F1 car, but I think if you're going to try to pursue your F1 dreams again, I would advise to stay in IndyCar. Because even if you do go to F1 and you come back to IndyCar, you may not be in a top tier ride again. Okay, you may not be in this Arrow McLaren Schmidt Peterson ride. And again, we know the top two rides to be in. It's with Chip Ganassi Racing or with Team Penske. But I think you can add Arrow McLaren Schmidt Peterson to that mix. They have proven last year in their first season in a pandemic year, they proved they are a force to be reckoned with. They proved they are just as good as those two teams. And of course, I also missed out on Andretti Autosport, but they just proved last season they're as good as those three teams. So, as far as I see it, Pato should stay put. I really believe he should. Now, as far as Jimmy Johnson goes, all the press has been on Jimmy Johnson this offseason. Of course, the move to IndyCar, which is great for IndyCar. Maybe not. Who knows for Jimmy Johnson? Time will tell. But as far as marketing standpoint for IndyCar, him being there is a huge marketing plus. I can't tell you how many TV ads I saw this race with him in it. But Jimmy Johnson, he spun early. He was almost involved in that first lap melee. He comes home 19th. He finishes the race, which was his goal for the day. And I got to give him credit. I mean, he was the slowest guy all weekend. He was either slowest or close to slowest. He came out 19 out of 24. It's not the slowest. It's still at the bottom of the results, but at the end, he was also pulling some lap times that were pretty impressive. I like that he's learning, but I think we got to back the press up a little bit. I mean, yes, this is a 7-time champ switching sports, but this rookie class is probably one of the best I've seen in a while in IndyCar. I think, Scott McLaughlin and I think Roman Grosjean, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but I think those two deserve just as much press as Jimmy Johnson does, because those two are good. They are very scary good. If I had to predict, Scott McLaughlin's going to win a race. He may win 2 races this season, but I think he's going to win at some point, and when he finds out how to win, he is going to win. I mean, like, a lot. Roman Grosjean, he may win a lot of races, but who knows? He was scary fast in qualifying. He looked good in the race. May not have been the best car in the race. Again, he's driving a Rick Ware car, so don't have high expectations. But the fact that he qualified in the top 10 in a Rick Ware Racing Honda is shocking. Very shocking. Because Rick Ware, anything that man touches breaks. And and to me, that's a victory that he qualified in the top 10. I think that's far greater than a victory. And the fact that he was running up front is even more impressive. I think he's going to have a successful career in IndyCar. And I'm telling you, these backmarker F1 drivers should consider a career in IndyCar, because I think they could add to that. I think they can shorten that, or I think they can really contribute to that gap in competition. Again, we talked about the competition gap in F1. Unless you're in Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas's rides, chances are you're not going to compete in F1. Okay, you go to IndyCar, you can compete in a Dale Coyne car, you can compete in an AJ Foyt car, and Sebastian Bourdais has proven that. He may also be another guy to watch for wins this season. But if you're in those rides, you have a shot. Maybe not the best shot, but you have a shot. So I think some of these backmarker F1 drivers should consider this in the future. But again, I was very impressed with Roman Grosjean. I was somewhat impressed with Scott McLaughlin. I think there's still some dust. I think there's still a little bit of learning to do. Same with Jimmy Johnson. But I think this is a great rookie class, and it's a good one for marketing, a very good marketing class for him. But that's my key takeaways. And also, AJ Foyt's going to be good this year. I think that 14 is going to be contending a lot. And next race is a very good race for Sebastian Bourdais. Of course, we'll get into that in a moment. But with that, let's move on to the NASCAR news. John Hunter Nemechek, he won the Richmond truck race over, guess who? His boss, Kyle Busch. John Hunter's, we questioned his move. A lot of the press questioned his move to go back to the truck series. I questioned it. I thought he had a very good rookie campaign in the Cup Series. I thought maybe he could do something in the Cup Series. He may not be in the best ride to do something in, but he has a shot. And I was shocked he went all the way back to trucks, but he's got 2 wins right now. KBM is on a 4-race winning streak in the trucks. Kyle Busch likes, Chip Ganassi likes winners. Kyle Busch loves winners. This has got to make him very happy, and I think this has got to make the whole TRD camp very happy in general. It was, it's just good for him. And then over on the Cup side, Alex Bowman the showman, he's the winner at Richmond. He passed Hamlin late on a restart, and Joey Logano. Both of them were battling hard at the end. I didn't watch much of this race, but I did catch the end. And I'm shocked Bowman won it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm happy he won it. Okay. Bowman may be in a similar situation as Matt DiBenedetto. Bowman started out with RAB Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He then went up to Cup and drove for Tommy Baldwin Racing. Was let go. He then went to Junior Motorsports. And say what you want, but that gig at Junior Motorsports saved his career. Because I don't think he would be anywhere right now if it wasn't for that. Definitely not in a top tier ride. I got to give him credit. He raced his ass off in that race, and all the credit goes to Dale Jr. for the reason he's still in the sport. Because if he didn't get that chance at Junior Motorsports, and hate to say it, but if it wasn't for Dale Jr.'s concussion, he wouldn't be in the sport. He probably would have been one and done at Junior Motorsports, 1 season and then out. This is a guy who has fought year in, year out, and he may have it tougher than Matt DiBenedetto as far as staying in a top tier ride. He doesn't bring sponsorship. He brings results. If he brought sponsorship, it could have very well been Kyle Larson in that 48. Maybe not with Ally. But if it wasn't for that, even maybe Noah Gragson gets called up. Thank God that didn't happen. But again, a guy who doesn't bring sponsorship, doesn't bring a family name to the table, and he gets the job done. And I'm going to tell you another thing. To the people who booed him in this race, because I heard some boos for him at the end of the race. Again, boo-hoo, Hamlin didn't win. I'm sorry, but look, Bowman's a good driver. But it just, to me, it sucks to see a guy who is so talented have to battle year in and year out to keep his job. And again, he's in an even more cutthroat seat than DiBenedetto is. Okay, he's with the top 4 team. He doesn't carry sponsorship. The emphasis is all on performance there. Okay, Matt DiBenedetto can, with the Wood Brothers, with growth, he can still be there. That team doesn't win very often. And of course, if he wins with the Wood brothers, it's going to put him as a candidate for a top ride next year. But again, Bowman deserves this job. He proved it today. He took over one of the highest profile rides in all of NASCAR, taking over for Jimmy Johnson. And he proved he's up for the challenge. So that I'm proud of. I've always been a supporter of Bowman. Congratulations to him again. Big win. And he's proving again. Him and Byron are proving that they belong at Hendrick Motorsports. And this Hendrick team, there's something special about them. So with that, let's go on to our picks for next weekend. Of course, next weekend, the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series go to Talladega. Let's start out with those picks. First with the NASCAR Xfinity Series. No contest here. I think Justin Haley is your guy to beat. I think anyone in that Colleague stable actually is a legitimate threat. Colleague always brings a good super speedway car. If it's not Justin Haley, I wouldn't be shocked if it was AJ Allmendinger. Maybe even Jeb Burton could play spoiler. So I'm going to go with Justin Haley, though. He won the last 2 Talladega races. It's hard to bet against him on a super speedway. Now we go over to the Cup Series at Talladega. Eric Almirola might just end this cold start for Stewart-Haas Racing. I see it happening. He's my pick. He's always good at the restrictor plates, but I wouldn't rule out Ricky Stenhouse for one, because Ricky Stenhouse is dangerously good on super speedways. I wouldn't rule out Michael McDowell, and I wouldn't rule out Ryan Blaney, and I especially wouldn't rule out Denny Hamlin. So those are 4 guys I think could win the race, but I'm going to go with Almirola. I'm going to just put a shot in the dark there with that. Then, of course, IndyCar takes on the Firestone Grand Prix at St. Pete. This was supposed to be the series opener. It got pushed back a few weeks due to COVID. But for this race, I see Pato O'Ward. Yes, you heard it right. I think Pato gets his first win at St. Pete. I would not rule that possibility out. But I'm going to tell you right now, don't count out Alexander Rossi. Alexander Rossi could be a threat there. He won there before. He beat Robert Wickens there. And Rossi's on a tear. He wants to prove that he can put last season behind him. Then, of course, another guy to watch, Sebastian Bourdais. He was entertaining to watch at Barber. He really upset Pato, but he was so entertaining to watch. I enjoyed watching him. Just to see AJ Foyt at the front of the pack, that was impressive. So I think he's got something up his sleeve, and I think he could take AJ Foyt Racing back to victory lane for the first time since Takuma Sato did it. So he is definitely my dark horse pick if I had to take one, but I'm going to go with Pato O'Ward here for the win. So with that, we want to say thank you guys for watching our first ever episode of Out of Turn 4. We will air this show every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We hope you'll tune in, and next week we will recap the Talladega races, St. Pete, and if there is a Formula 1 race, we will recap that here as well. So we hope you'll tune in. Be sure to subscribe and check out our other shows on here. The Canteen Podcast is on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then SCN Sport, or oh my gosh, not SCN Sports Talk, but Sports Talk on Tinkle Sports will be on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Join Jason and I. We will have our mock drafts, and we will, of course, discuss any of the latest news in sports. So you won't want to miss those 2 shows, guys. Until then, goodbye, everyone.